What's a popular trend in church tech or creativity that you secretly hate?
Well, we asked that question to you all on Instagram, and we got hundreds of responses.
Many of them were similar, some of them were strange. Nonetheless, we're going to break all of them down together.
Let's dive in.
Well, hey there, and welcome to the Pro Church Tools Show. We're here to help you and your church navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. I'm Brady Shearer, your host. I'm joined as always by my co-host. It's MasterCard Minister Alexander Mills.
Hello.
And we've got a fun episode for you today. We asked this question on Instagram stories earlier this week. What is a popular trend in church tech or creativity that you secretly hate? And my goodness, the inbox was flooded with replies. So much so that the only way that we could compile them into this episode was to group them. So we have, I think, 7.
Right, there were so many duplicates that came in, we were able to make a myriad of groups of them.
Yeah. And we had to you had to exclude some ones, when the pastor is doing illicit activity. It's like,
yeah, okay, we get it.
I mean, I don't know if that's like a trend that we're embracing.
Well,
okay. Spiritual abuse. Yeah. Agreed.
We all hate that.
I don't know if that really is like the tech and creativity fields, but so we grouped these. I think we have 8 categories. And then we just felt kind of 3 fun ones at the end that were hyper specific that made me laugh, but only came in from one person.
Yeah.
So Alexander, let's start with category number 1.
All right, the first popular trend in church tech or creativity that your followers that speak for the collective secretly hates is not using vowels.
Yeah, when you say collective, what you mean is CLLCTV.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so specific responses.
There's a youth group called Collective that has no
Not
vowels.
one, hundreds. Yeah. And that's what we're talking about here. We got a few responses. It's so old and people still do it, taking vowels out of words like youth and stylizing them like YTH. Another response, stylizing creative like CRTV. Another response, taking the vowels out of words, youth. And then they said midweek, MDWK.
Yeah,
that's a crime.
Tough. Yeah.
MDWK?
Even youth is tough. The word is so short, you're getting rid of like 40% of it. And it's
That's true.
what are you trying to say here?
Yeah, absolutely. When did this first become popular?
I don't know. Like you saw even still, you see it in popular music, right? Artists will name themselves some word that's missing vowels, and it's tough because you don't know how to say it. And I always wonder, are you just not tanking your own search engine optimization as an indie artist in a world where it's really hard to break through? People don't even know how to say, never mind type your name. So I don't know when it started, but one of the first folks to write in about it said, it's so old and people still do it. Feels like we've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's a millennial trend.
Yeah.
And so millennials are no longer setting trends. Gen Z has come along. They are now setting trends. And what does that mean? Trends that the previous generation set are no longer, of the culture. They have become passé.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen to Gen Z when Gen Alpha comes along and they kind of reach those 20s where they're setting the cultural trends, and the Gen Z trends will be lambasted. This is just the cycle of things. I do feel like, it's probably 2015 when this started becoming a thing or started hitting the peak of its popularity. And it's interesting. A lot of these trends I would say are current, but some of them are these older trends. We didn't include this one, but one person was like wood pallets. And I was like, are we still doing that?
Yeah.
That feels kind of like
Everyone was doing that.
100%.
Yeah.
And this does still stick around because there are some trends that become so pervasive. It's like that one song. I saw a post this week on TikTok of a person celebrating. They were laughing. They were giddy that a bar song by Shabuzi had finally been removed from the top 10 of Billboard because it had been 66 consecutive weeks. And that's the effect when you hear something so much that the trend can actually burn so brighter than any, but it has no staying power. This trend never really offended people, and it wasn't so pervasive that it was in everyone's face. The irony is that is what makes it stay around for longer until eventually it reaches the tipping point where the next generation is like, wait, why did you misspell words purposely?
Yeah, we just put those letters back in.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to be all caps.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, moving on. This one, do you think this is a Gen Z trend? The next one is fit checks.
Yeah, I'm going to blame Gen Z for this. So the outfit check trend, it says dress like us or don't come. And then the other person just sent in fit checks. And only 2 people sent this in, but I wanted to include it because I have seen this more frequently because it parallels what you would do if you were of that generation or of that ilk. Fit checks are just popular everywhere now, right? there's a TikTok trend that's happening right now where it's like, you know, you and your partner or you and your best friend.
I've seen this.
And I don't know how you'd see that. You're not on TikTok, but I've seen it. And by the way, I have to take an aside here and just say that, like, you know how you have some friends that are just a little bit holier than thou?
It's not me, the MasterCard minister.
I mean, he is a pastor, so I suppose he should be holier than me. No, of course, we're all ministers of the gospel.
That's right.
And so Alex will take any opportunity that he can to let you know that, one, we're all going to die.
That's right.
And two, he's not on TikTok. And it just reeks of sanctimony that I have been trying to not so subtly imply to him that he doesn't have to tell us every time. But now it kind of reached the point where he started like posting TikToks like in the Slack thread. And I'm like,
because I'm free.
Where'd you find that? How'd you get that? Because this has happened before where he's quit TikTok and then just like subtly 4 months later be like, oh yeah, I reinstalled it.
Yeah.
Are you going to do that again?
I really don't think so. No.
As long as I keep you on trend, you won't need to. So
Yes.
fit checks, there's this one trend that's going on. Apparently Alex has seen it again. Don't know how he would.
I don't know where. I think I may have seen it on Instagram.
You saw it on Facebook 8 months after
It's still
it was from
on
Santa.
Instagram. Yeah.
So let's say it's Alex and I make this video and I go like, oh, sorry, we were late. Alex was throwing a fit. And then it cuts to Alex and it's showing like, you know, the outfit that he put on.
Yes.
He wasn't throwing an angry fit. And so fit checks have become this like big part of culture. And this has history, right? Think about dressing your Sunday best.
For sure.
What's funny about this trend is that it's being picked up by Gen Z, but it skipped us as millennials because we were the generation that said like, come as you are. That was our language and verbiage. We're like, hey, the church is for everyone. You don't need to dress up in your suit and tie.
All of our parents were wearing suit and ties, and then we showed up to church. We got our first opportunity to preach, and it's like, watch this. I'm going to wear ripped jeans when I get up there to the pulpit.
Oh yeah. Then I got talked to.
Yes.
And so now the generation after is like, you know, it's okay to not look like a slob. In fact, we're going to use Sunday to dress up. And interestingly, I have this in my own life because I don't go anywhere. I literally never leave the house. I come to the office once a week to record this podcast. I work from home. I am in my jammies all the time.
Yeah.
If you drive down our street, I will look like, you know, well-to-do white trash because I'm just like sitting in my jammies on the front lawn, like eating my yogurt and listening to a podcast at 11 a.m. Like, does he not have a job? No, not a real job. I did all my content writing at 5 a.m. You were still asleep.
Yeah.
So Sunday, when we go to church, is
You
like,
just put on real clothes.
oh, I can
Fit
wear
check.
my clothes.
Yeah.
So I kind of get it now. Recording it and publishing it, it's just kind of interesting that these trends, which we assign virtue to or lack of virtue, often are so infiltrated by cultural preferences.
Yeah.
And it can be really tough to untangle what is cultural preference and what is like actual virtue or morality. This one skipped us as millennials. My guess is that first category of no vowels was a bunch of Gen Z being like, why are you so strange? And the second one was a couple millennials being like, why do you care what you look like?
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen this come up often, like couples will do this. They'll be in their jammies and then they'll do an in-camera transition or something and boom, they're in their Sunday best, which in isolation in a vacuum, I don't think is trying to say anything, but I understand the sentiment from the one person who wrote in is like, yeah, it's kind of giving like, you know, how did they say it? I don't want to quote them. It's giving like dress like us or don't come. And so I hear that too. So get the fit checks out of here.
I'm kind of here for them. Like, I'm not going to do them.
Right.
But
You like to consume them.
I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to say, like, I think that I understand why you're doing this.
Sure.
And I like the idea of like, hey, Sunday, I'm going to like dress up with my family and we're going to go out.
Yeah.
In my ripped jeans.
All right, moving on. Next category, design icks. So there's a lot of these. So let's see if we either agree or disagree with some of them.
Okay, I'm going to read them all.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of circle back.
Yeah.
Making everything grainy. Small fonts, and lots of empty space. I said what I said. This guy hates negative space. Ultra fast cut videos. The first letter of the title being script font, everything else is serif. Vertical video.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not a trend. You're just hating an aspect ratio. Oh, I did include it. Palette walls
There it
or
is.
rustic
Yeah,
wood walls
yeah.
on stage. Okay. Prism filters coming at you. Minimal modern design. It is void of beauty. Dark and grainy photography. Nearly every photo being blurry.
All right.
Any that stand out to you that you go, you know what? Yeah, I don't care for that.
Yeah, I mean, we already touched on the palette walls a little bit. They had a moment where just about any and every church, whether you were online or not, it's like somehow the palette wall found you. They seem to have, and we're going to talk about some like worship space aesthetic later on. I think the palette walls have mostly been replaced by some other things.
Sure.
So those are certainly out. I don't know. Like I'm here for a small font. I don't know why people like multiple people were upset about that. Like I like a small, either like a monospace font or something.
Negative space. Good.
Yeah. A little bit of grain. Grain ever hurt anybody?
I mean, I thought Gen Z was all about like, natural photography, and maybe these are the millennials that are like, remember flat design?
Yeah.
Everything was so clean and now it's all grainy. And what they're saying is like, you can just make something that like is so ugly that you can't not say that is objectively good to look at. The blur, the dark, the grain, right? Like it's just so edgy, grungy. It's just grunge. It's so grunge that it doesn't look nice.
Yeah. Seems like everything in moderation, right? Like if you have a little, like at our church, our little welcome wall, it has a wood palette background.
Gross.
And because it's not over the top, it's not the back of our worship center, like it still works. Or a little bit of grain on a photo goes a long way. A lot of grain turns it into grudge. Same with, someone mentioned, blurred photographs. I'm actually loving that trend that I'm seeing where photographers are reintroducing motion into photography. I've noticed that. But if every post on your grid or your feed has motion or is blurred, it's like, okay, like that went a little bit too far, but any of these in moderation, I don't see any problem with that.
Yeah, that's fair. And that gets back to the comment earlier where if a trend is so pervasive that you cannot escape it, it burns bright, but it doesn't burn for a long time. And the wood palette walls are kind of like that. Plants on stage were like that, where they disappeared for like 2 decades because every single church had the fake plants on stage that we were like, you know what, plants bad. Are plants bad? No, but the trend was just so in your face that we needed to take a break. We all needed to cleanse the plant palette before we were ready to reintroduce ourselves into it in a new way.
Okay, next category. Brady, I'm sorry to say, but we've got lots of folks coming for the Skit Reels.
Yeah, probably the most popular response. I did not even include them all because it would have become redundant. It might be redundant what I'm about to read anyway. The cringe reels. Funny. Yes. Cringe? No. Duplicating the same church social reel memes that everyone else is doing. Corny reel trends. Every single church on my feed jumping on the same TikTok trend. When reels involve violence, like diving into chairs or slapping people. Reels that make pastors do cheesy things to gain views. The trust fall trend that lets people fall as an invite to church. So those were some specific ones at the end. This is exactly what we just spoke to. If you go to your Instagram feed and you are like at all recognized by Instagram to be in the church space, your feed will invariably have a heavy concentration of this type of content. And so it can be the type of content that you see so much of that you begin to just have like this complete ick towards it. Now, in the past, we've talked about this in terms of church's social strategy, and that like if this is all that you do, it's probably not going to help you fulfill the mission of your church because it's lacking the ability to exit the church subculture and reach people that you care to reach, that are far from God, that are local to your church. Now, on last week's episode, we talked about Instagram's big changes and this supply and demand ratio, and how if it's not as predictable for us as churches to reach new audiences that are local to us using Instagram's free distribution, it's still possible, still a big part of what we do, but like that free reach is not as easy to gain, then that kind of opens up more alternative strategies. It's like if you have like a job offer that is giving you like twice as much money as any other, be like, well, even if it's a bit farther away, or even if it's like, not every single thing that I want, like it's twice as much money. But now if that job offer was like, 10% more, 20% more, and you looked at like, okay, this is a bit less money, but maybe I can do this, or this is a bit less money, but I can do this, it's closer to home, then you could start like evaluating. And that's kind of where we're at the point with social. And so I'm not here to like update my take on Skit Reels, but if we understand that the likelihood we reach new audiences is lesser than it was 24 months ago, I think that puts a greater spotlight on the value of creating these Skit Reels, even if we understand that their only inherent value is like spotlighting church community with the people that go to your church already. Like, sure, it gets 100,000 views and like people outside of your church see it. And we know they're in the Christian subculture. And we know that we're just using that as a basic way of saying like, oh, this is fun. These are my people, or I'm going to use this as inspiration. It in no way impacts your church's local mission. But What that also means is probably every single person in your church saw that video. And it's like a fun thing. Like, oh, look, we made a funny thing. And like, there's value in like culture in that way. It's the reason why we do affinity groups where we're just like rubbing shoulders and playing pickleball. And it's like, is pickleball bringing us closer to Jesus? Like, yes, because it's strengthening the community. And that in-person community is superior to online community, but the online community version is the congruent alternative or like manifestation, expression of what we do in person. And so like, I don't want to like poo-poo on these like 100%. They obviously have been overdone, but like, if nothing else, there's some fun value with your church, and especially if you're getting younger people to do this and they're actually making this content. It's not like you're roping in like the senior leaders, but there's this groundswell of people in your church who are doing this as like an actual ministry activity, then even more so.
Yeah, that's good. Just if you're in a Mennonite or Anabaptist community, maybe stay away from the violent ones, as this one user points out.
The one we showed the other day where they were like, come to baptism, and like in the background, the guy's drowning the dude. Maybe we're the problem.
Yeah. Okay, we talked about wood panels already. After the wood panels, you know where churches went next? The black box.
Yes. Super dark churches, no lights, no color, everything black and gray. Light shows, am I old?
Maybe based off the way you wrote it, you may be old.
Gray. Why is everything gray? Smoke machines, hazers, bright lights in my eyes. I've never ever heard someone say, man, those movers in my face are awesome. Again, this is a generational thing. We're starting to see the like re-embrace of auditoriums or congregations that are bright. Like the quintessential example of that was like the Crystal Cathedral in Anaheim for the longest time, where it was just like the brightest room. And you grew up like seeing that on TV and then seeing all the different like versions of that like in your own local space. And you were like, man, like it'd be kind of, I don't know if I like this because it's just so pervasive. And then what happens? The exact opposite trend emerges as a response to the predominant trend. And then what happens is now we're all in these black boxes where there are spotlights. It's like, hey, there's no distractions. It's just like a spotlight on the singer. And like, there's no, so you like in youth group, this was a feature, not a bug, because the idea was like, you don't need to be like on a Sunday morning where like everyone can see you raise your hands. You are in a private space with God. There are no distractions. It's just you. No one's looking at you. No one can even see you. So if you want to raise your hands for the first time and you've never felt comfortable, great. You want to dance? Great. You want to like, do worship that would be a distraction on a Sunday morning because everyone will be looking at you? Fine. Like go charismatic. Do it it's not going to be a problem. That was awesome. That had great merit and value. And what I want to highlight is every time there's a crazy pervasive trend that we then go to the exact opposite with, we assign this like, oh, why did we do this? This was awful. It's like, no, we're just so sick of it that we're almost forgetting why we did it in the first place.
Yeah.
And now we're coming back to like these lighter auditoriums because we're like, why is everything dark and like, you can't see anything? Like, why does this feel like a club? Like, it's okay to have brightness and sun rays. Sun, that's God. Angels, light. There's lots of reason why this imagery would make sense in a place of worship. And I'm all for that. I just, in all trends, as I get older, I'm just so old now, I guess I can recognize, I remember why we did this. And surely it was one expression of a value. And it's not the only expression. And if it is a pervasive expression where it's all we see, I can understand why people would say, we're kind of missing something if we only have churches that look like this.
I have a bit of like an esoteric take on this. From my view, this pendulum from like whatever it was before the black box to the black box and now back away from the black box, in my view, seems to be motivated a little bit by our relationship to technology. Because I remember when we got our first projector, so we moved away from like the bulb projector with the slides
overheads
to like it wasn't LED then, it was or laser, like whatever was before that, a 720p projector. And I remember the pain point was like, oh, it's really hard to see on the screen because, and you've been in our church, the whole left wall, which is the long wall of our worship space, is windows, and like the daylight is making it really hard to see the screen. And so with this technological shift to digital projectors, multiple screens, LED lights, and sure, moving lights and all these things, they become accessible to the church. We darken the space to embrace this technology. It's like, okay, well, we want to leverage this technology, these new projectors. We need to create this darker environment to show off, not in a haunty way, but like in a haughty way, but like show off this technology. We want the projector to be visible. We want to use these new LED lights because they're accessible to the church now. And now we swing our pendulum back because our relationship to technology has changed. We are so inundated with our OLED screens that are in our pockets all the time that like we want something beyond the screens. We want to feel something spiritual again. And so we want to look at our worship spaces and not see another screen. We want to like see something a little bit like more tactile or holy. And so, yeah, we let the light in to feel the sun, or like to see the changes of the season outside of our worship space, to see the leaves grow and the flowers bloom or whatever. So that's my view on it. That's my experience with it. Which leads us into our next category, which is we've categorized as display icks, but has a lot to do with like LED wall kind of technology.
LED walls, they hurt my eyes during the teaching. LED walls. LED walls being your first purchase before good cameras. Here's a new one. LED walls. Somehow they offer so much creativity that creativity dies. Underutilizing LED walls. Wall-to-wall LED screens. Okay. LED wall used as a 2008 PowerPoint presentation. Thank the Lord that's the last LED wall one. The final two. IMAG during worship in all but the very largest auditoriums. Just put the words up. And then wide IMAG shots. You are missing the point by a wide margin. So I'll be the first to say, we don't have an LED wall at my church.
You never have.
No, like we've had like LED lights, but no LED walls. I have never been in a church that's had it. So like, I don't really have much commentary on this LED wall thing, but it did like show up as stark in the responses that clearly there's something about like LED walls being extremely popular and churches and pastors being like, hey, we should get this. And then either like misusing them or not utilizing them fully or like misunderstanding their best uses. So I want to open this up to the comments on YouTube. Throw it in the comments. What specifically is it about LED walls that are being misunderstood? Is it like the cost relative to like what they're creating? Or is there something about like, why are we doing this? Is it distracting? Are we misusing it? I want to talk specifically about the IMAG comments. Okay. So there's this principle of proximity that I always refer to. And the idea is that how close you are to a subject or a screen determines how loud the visual volume of that content is. So for example, imagine holding your phone and you have a video of me. And because your phone is 5 inches tall, I have framed myself where you can only really see from the chest up. So that way, my face is pretty big on the screen, but the screen itself is pretty small. So it balances out. Now imagine there's a video of me where you can see myself head to toe. And then there's still like 2 inches above and below me. I would look so far away on that screen that what I'm saying actually would not have as much authority because of the principle of proximity. So what these two people at the end are acknowledging or identifying with their critiques is that if you have a wide IMAG shot, you are literally giving the same shot that somebody already has sitting in their chair.
Right. Like you don't need to put that on the screen because that's the view that I currently have in the room.
100%. Now, if you want to do like a full crowd shot, like an overhead as a palette cleanser, we're not talking about that.
Or something really tight.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then the other comment is like, unless you're in a really big auditorium, IMAG feels strange because it's the opposite of the principle of proximity, or it's the opposite end of the same principle where it's almost like claustrophobic. Like you are too close because this room is too small.
Right.
And this applies in all places. It's why movies are such a different experience than films that you watch at home, because the screen is so big, the principle of proximity, it is right in your face in ways that no screen at home, save for a projector, can accomplish. And so it makes sense that churches are misunderstanding that. One of the easy ways to talk about it, if you do see this or if you are trying to work through this, and it's the same for social, it's the reason why we always say like, hey, crop your pastor this way when you're doing, sermon reels and stuff like that, because of the principle of proximity.
That's good. All right, moving on. 7th category, copycat syndrome.
Copying whatever large churches do. Quote, let's copy elevation, end quote. Copying trends instead of making them. Trends aren't bad, but we can get more creative. Seeing a church is social and it's all trends and being obliged to copy it. Copying everyone. Socials aren't as much creatives as copycats. Copying, trying to mimic what big popular churches are doing. Use your own brain for your space. Love this. All this anonymous. Everyone's just speaking their mind. Coming from the heart.
Yeah.
You know what? I said what I said. Did I stutter? Use your brain. This is my take on copying. When I first started as a media director at a church, I had no idea what I was doing. Pastor gave me a camera and said, we need a vision video. What is a vision video? What would a good vision video look like? I don't follow churches. I don't know. All I knew was that my pastor liked Judah Smith.
Okay.
And so I looked up Judah Smith, found his church, and then I found their vision video that they had posted on Vimeo. And they had done this specific trend where they had taken a time lapse and then they had used this tilt shift lens or a tilt shift effect in post-production to blur the corners of the frame and then the motion blur of the time lapse. Unlike a normal time lapse where you imagine like cars going by and they're very blurry, this time lapse had zero blur. So everything like moved perfectly smooth. And the effect it creates is everything looks like a miniature doll world. And I was like, that's really cool. I'm going to copy that effect exactly. And even to the point where I'm going to frame things exactly the way they framed them because they used B-roll of their city, Seattle. I was living in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada at the time. So I did B-roll of my city. But it was like, okay, this is how big the road should be. It should go from this part of the frame to this part of the frame. Because I literally had no idea what I was doing. And it created this amazing video that became this watershed moment for me because the church and pastors were so happy with it. It built confidence in me that the next thing I could try would be successful. And I didn't think at all that me copying another church made this unsuccessful. I had no frame of reference for like what a vision video was meant to be, what success would even be. And so I think there's truth on both sides of this, where when you blindly copy others' churches and you misunderstand the missional reason behind it, you can put yourself in a tough spot. You know, we had a video, maybe our biggest video on YouTube, the first big video we had, and the title was like, why you shouldn't copy Elevation Church.
Yeah.
And Stephen Furtick reposted it because the heart of that video, and it was just like a 2-minute video, was me saying like, if you blindly copy what a church is doing and you misunderstand their scope, scale, or strategy, it can put you in a spot where your resources are now dedicated to something that is misaligned with your church's mission. And then I talk in separate videos about like copying style, which is distinct from copying strategy.
That's right.
So if you want to like look at a graphic somebody did, oh wow, I have never seen a graphic done that way. Oh, the gradient in there is really cool. I like that. And then you try to like copy that exact way of doing it. When you're first learning things, you have to copy because that's how you learn. If you're learning a new language, a language teacher or some bird will say like, this is the Spanish word for this. And you go, okay. And you copy exactly what they say. And then once you know 10,000 words, 1,000 words, whatever the amount is, you can start to piece together your own sentences. And the same is true for creativity. And so when we highlight something like this, and all these people that are saying copying is bad, there is a distinction between copying style and copying strategy. And if you're just learning, one of the best things that you can do is copy. When I was learning like how to write and my voice, I would end up sounding exactly like the people that I listened to. And then as things went on, and I listened to more voices, I would sound like a combination between 2 people and then 3 people. And eventually I'm just picking little bits and pieces of what makes sense to me to the point where, oh, Brady's voice in how he writes and how he speaks is unique to him. In reality, it's a mosaic of all of my influences over many, many years.
Yeah, and that's an important word because there are folks who listen to the show who are creatives and that's kind of the bounds of their work. And there are folks who listen to the show who are social media managers or social media pastors. And there are folks who are both. And so to one group, we're speaking to, copying style and to another group, we're cautioning don't copy strategy. But when it comes to creativity, to actually creating the content, that's how a lot of my creative chops have been formed. I never went to training to learn how to take a photograph or do digital design. I started specifically with digital design, whether it's Photoshop or Illustrator. It's like I sat with something that somebody else had done, and I literally tried to recreate it on my own. And that's how I forge a lot of my own creative chops. Think about if you learn how to paint, inevitably you're going to sit down in a class and the teacher's going to say, okay, paint Starry Night. Or like paint the Scream, like these famous paintings. It's like, go ahead and try and recreate this so that you learn something in the process that you can employ when you start to carve out your own style. Now, when I sit down to create something, I'm not referencing somebody else. I've got my own kind of skill set that I've forged over time, but that's certainly how it begins. And in the church space, there's no harm in that. It's finding something that someone else has been really successful at, style-wise, and trying to recreate it, and certainly put your own riff on it, but recreate it for the purpose of learning and honing your skill, so that you get to the point where you can sit down in front of a blank canvas someday and create something that's entirely your own.
I think I had 3 calls like this just this week. It happens all the time. It's one of the comments I hear the most, which is like, "Oh, Brady, it's great to meet with you. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've just like gone into my pastor's office and I've said, 'Hey, Brady says this, we should do
Right.
it.'" Or a senior pastor has been like, "I don't know, man. It's great to meet you. My people just keep sending me your videos and it says that we should do this." And that's the reality of church, because those people, whether it's the pastor or the person sending those videos to the pastor, are not spending 100% of their time on like social or digital media or whatever it is, whatever subject that we're talking about. They're wearing multiple hats.
Yeah.
They are not an expert in a field. And so they are tasked with something that they don't know about. What happens when I am tasked with something in my home? Like, we came home from France from our summer trip and the AC was off and it was 88 degrees in our house. And that was the last thing that we wanted after being in Europe for 2 weeks where they do not have AC. What do? I set an appointment for the AC person the next day, but I go straight to the internet. And I think I asked Chad, I was like, here's what's happening. What should I do? And it's probably this. Try this, this, and this. And I tried those things, and guess what? I got it up and running. And the missing part that like it was going to work temporarily for one night, it was going to get the house to a place where we could sleep in. And then the repairman arrived the next day and like replaced it with the actual missing part. That was me copying what like someone else knew would be correct in my situation.
Yeah.
And so I think that copying is usually like worth doing. When it starts to filter into the strategic area, that's where you just want to exercise caution. And when you're listening to shows like this, hopefully when we introduce something, we say, and the reason this would make sense for a church is because it's linked to mission in this way. And then at that point, you can evaluate what we're saying and basically say, yep, my church would be in that camp. That would make sense for us. Doesn't mean we have the budget or the time or the desire to do it, but it would make sense. Or you can say, you know what? Our church's specific identity, that actually wouldn't make sense based on our mission for these reasons. So you can even copy a strategy that we share so long as you just run it through the checks and balances to make sure it's a good fit for your church.
Yeah. All right, rounding it out here, this one kind of caught me by surprise. We're talking about church trends, creative things that you secretly hate. And multiple people wrote in and said, it's not just a trend that I hate, it's a person, and his name is Forrest Frank.
Forrest Frank songs on Reels. Enough. Forrest Frank as the soundtrack to every reel. Using the same Forrest Frank song. Originality is actually okay.
Hey, what's a church supposed to do when they create a reel and they go to add audio and the trending sound that comes up because they're a church account, the top 5 trending sounds, Forrest Frank, Forrest. Hey, if I want to jump on the back of trending audio, this is what Instagram is serving up. What is a church to do?
This poor guy, he's just trying to recover. He's catching strays as he recovers in bed from his broken back. Though, healed?
Healed. Thanks be to God.
Praise God. I came across a tweet the other day. Are you on X?
I am, and I saw this tweet.
Okay. So it was a tweet of, so this person says, this artist on YouTube has 150 million listeners. Who are they? Like what?
I've literally never heard of them.
Yeah. And it was Forrest Frank.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is what it's like when you like, someone goes, you look at the Billboard 100, it's like all K-pop. And you're like, who are these people? I don't know any of these songs. How are these the most popular songs in the world? We saw on our side where it was Forrest Frank, 150 million monthly listeners.
This guy just churns out hits. Like, you can't blame him.
Yeah. So you can blame him, though, if you are these 3 people. Let's get into the final 3 that are just fun. I'm going to read them out. So the first one.
These are not categories. These are
No. So the first one goes, when every video opens with, hey, guys, we are so excited. Oh, man. Please stop. Also, and this is the one that got me. The dumb smiling face of the person who's not talking in a 2-person talking head. So maybe it's 2 pastors or like the husband and wife where like the wife is just tasked with standing there with a smile while the pastor goes like, we are so excited.
You don't want to miss this.
You don't want to miss this. Welcome home. And then like the pastor's wife who's like been gifted like her 2 lines and she's like, we're going to have this great stuff happening. We can't wait to see you there. And it goes right back. And then she's just like, hands together, just smiling and nodding. Now, I don't know what possibly she could or he could be doing as an alternative. If it was like, me and Alex who were doing an invite video. Like, what I do at the beginning of every podcast. So like when I'm a guest on a podcast and we're on like Riverside or we're recording video and they go, okay, 3, 2, 1. I always make sure I'm starting with a smile.
But waiting.
I have a downturned mouth. If we start the show and they see the guest and it's me, I'm just glaring at the camera. They're like, oh, I don't want to listen to this guy. He looks like he's having no fun.
This guy hates your dumb smiling face. So
next up, confetti cannons. So my pastor at the aforementioned church in Edmonton, where I got my start, famously loved confetti cannons. He was like, we just have to have confetti cannons. I don't know if we ever did. And I don't even know if it was like a semi-serious thing, but he would just be like, oh, you know what would make this Easter service better? Confetti cannons. So my pastors were over. It was Justin's birthday on Sunday. And so we're, having dinner.
Different pastor.
That's right. I only have 3 friends and they're all pastors.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't keep
this
it together,
one's not the confetti cannon.
it's not Alex. So Pastor Justin, he's like, we brought up confetti cannons. Why did we bring up confetti cannons? It came up organically. Oh, right. Because they were at youth camp this week.
So much confetti.
And there was a lot of confetti. And I said, like, is confetti not like the worst thing ever? And Justin just jumps into a diatribe. He's like, yeah, we actually have a rule because our church does rentals full time outside of church. He's like, you are not allowed confetti for any reason.
Who's going to clean it up?
He's like, it's a pain to clean. I was like, right, because it's all on the ground. He's like, no, you can clean it off the ground. For months and years, you will just have a random moment in church where a confetti, a single one,
it just comes down.
Because they get stuck in the rafters. And then eventually they get dislodged by a gust of wind or a gust of the Holy Spirit.
Yes,
and then they just start falling down at the most inopportune times. He said it only happened once. We were having a graduation, and this guy comes on, and he graduated, and he does a backflip, and then underneath his robe, he pulls out a pocket confetti cannon and just busts it open. And Justin was like, couldn't even be mad, because it was pretty cool. Yeah. But that's the only time that we've had confetti in our new building.
Wow. Get those out of here.
And then final one, everyone has a podcast. Now, I love podcasts, yours especially.
Nice.
But not everyone needs one.
So we get a pass.
We get a pass. We started this podcast in 2014.
Before podcasts were popular.
No.
Not everyone had a podcast.
No one even knew what a podcast was. Yeah. You had to be, it's like the radio on demand. So make sure you subscribe
to this podcast.
And this podcast only. We are the only ones that get a pass according to this kind individual. And we will be back next Wednesday. Thank you for your time, attention, and trust. Chat next week. You know what's kind of cool? TikTok is now mature enough that like people actually see my content and it's church people and it's like the people that we want.
Right.
And it's not just Christians that go, the internet is hell. And you're like, okay, well, that's
I wouldn't know because I don't know if you know this, but I'm not on TikTok.
Yeah, I